convenient place to put all this food.
That's a good question.
What is this?
Indian food.
Indian food, guys, come get dinner.
In the chairs?
I mean, I'm not sure. Do you have a?
No.
We could also use this part of the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, like, you know, this is the collab with the whole vegan group, like, we're gonna bring pizza.
Yeah, no, we have vegan options.
Yeah, I'm not responsible for food. So
Yeah.
No, I know. It's just,
We do have non-vegan options, but they are veggie. Yes, it is Indian food. Rice. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think I would use
I
it.
can't believe they fit everything in one bag.
That's why I was so confused.
and going, everybody.
Where's the veneer?
The paneer is there's another, yeah, both of these are the paneers.
That's it, right?
Yep, those are the only non-vegan. What's up? Okay. That is everything.
And there's the.
Come on, guys. Help yourself.
Yes, so I'm a double major pastor for social philosophy. So I have a philosophy club with Dul, who's also
Mature. I'm a biomedical engineer.
Okay. Bachelor or
Undergrad, yeah, bachelor.
everyone here is undergrad.
There are another. I think.
Oh,
PhD.
BNP.
PhD.
Oh, BNP.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. Already did the statistics.
Yeah. Which one is what? Which one? Sauce. I mean, these are both chana salads with like chickpea. It all tastes good. It's Indian. How long are you in St. Louis?
Until Friday. Well, leave till Saturday.
Okay.
Is that a rush, right?
Yes, this is all. This is all rice. This is a chicken curry. This is a lentil curry dal. Familiar. And this is like a potato avocado.
Is this also rice?
I would just think that.
Lots of yeah. And that is also chicken. Only open up.
Oh.
It sounded like I can't really read it out for everyone, but. Hey, Indian food.
But I just ate one. First half was. I mean, it's from 11:45 to 2:45. That's so silly. So it's like right when you just. Yeah.
What do you want?
How do I not do this diet? Is that what it is? I don't know. How to do it. Okay, probably is. I feel like it's
Had to do all this, and I was like,
yeah, I don't know. Just to go.
It is what it is.
going?
Going all right.
Good?
Honestly, I didn't see you the first time.
That's,
I
yeah,
watched
that's
it.
all right. Yeah,
And then
I
I was like, okay, this does not look
these are-
familiar.
Yeah.
That's why I walked out and double checked.
Yeah.
Why
Good
does
thing you
it-
double check.
And then I decided to double check the room as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you now grabbing food?
I will. I will.
No, that place is like,
What was it called?
Bombay food truck.
Have you been there?
I have not been there, no.
I think they might be from like 2 hours.
Oh, nice.
How far is it?
15 minutes?
15 minutes? That's not bad.
Yeah.
We ordered this from a place that's 5-minute walk off.
Yes.
Wait, where is this?
Is this from Girls?
Tasted any of
Oh,
it.
I live right above Taste towards that.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to tour St. Louis?
Not really. I usually come here, start talking to students, and it's great.
Wow. There's not much to see.
I travel way too much, honestly. But no, I haven't really done much. Like touring around.
That's the, yeah, that's, does it say Peel? No. Yeah.
It's here.
Oh.
However, I'm gonna talk about dairy, so I don't want you to feel bad.
Yeah.
And I will pay for this.
Okay.
So get some rice and then some like sausage.
This is lentils.
I'm gonna put some food over there so if people want to come take a second round.
No,
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe we can do it further.
I just don't want any of the wet things
Yeah.
to stand.
Good choice. Oh, good. Well, how's the food?
Good.
Well, thank them. Didn't do anything. Thank you guys for coming here, and really appreciate the collaboration with allied scholars for animal protection. And I'm a philosophy enthusiast, and I think one of the best things about philosophy, my PhD is in biomedical sciences. When I was a student, my animal rights organization's advisor was a philosophy professor, and every time I went to his office and I saw these philosophy books, and I was like, you know, I love my research, but at the end of the day, you go home and you're not using your biomedical research at home. The good thing about philosophy is that's something that you learn, and you usually apply it to your life every day and every second. I was asking you, before I even start, well, I guess I introduced myself. That's me, I guess. I'm Faraz. By education and training, I'm a biomedical scientist, and then I shifted towards working on food systems. So I became a food system scientist. I'll tell you why I made that transition. And now, so those two that you see, Allied Scholars for Animal Protection and Good Food Institute, are both nonprofits that work on animal protection or food system transformation. With Allied Scholars, my passion is really just going to universities, and the only reason I do that is because I think so highly of each of you that I think that you guys will be the next generation of thought leaders. I think there are a lot of things wrong with the society, and it's really hard to change the society at scale, but it's really easy. Almost all revolutions start from college and from intellectuals like yourself. Before I even get started, I want a life of success and prosperity for you. And you guys are smart. Many of you said you want to go to medical school or become scientists. One thing I actually want to, ask yourself, why do you want to become a doctor? And we talked about happiness, a happy life, potentially making money to live a comfortable life. So an interesting chart is the relationship between how much money you make and your happiness levels. This is your happiness. And it plateaus. In the US, it's somewhere around 40 to 60K perhaps. What it means is that if you're really struggling and if you really have like a leaking roof, a little money can make a big difference in your happiness. But I can guarantee you, everyone in this room, after graduation and working in industry for a year or two, you're going to pass this point. And you're going to have a comfortable life. But the question is, like, what comes next? If the idea is we want to go to medical school because we want to save people, I have a bad news for you. If you become a medical doctor in the US, you will not save anyone. Because if you don't go to medical school, someone else will replace you. So logically, you will not actually save anyone. Unless you become a doctor and go to some place that is absolutely in need of physicians, in that case, you're not going to make money. So at that point, then you have to decide whether you're pursuing happiness or something even better. I used to be pretty depressed during my PhD. I'm not even kidding. Like, it was because, especially after I became vegan, and I think I'm a sensitive guy too. Just like looking everywhere in the world and seeing something drastically wrong and feeling like I can do something about it. I read every single book about like happiness. Why am I not happy? Like, there were days I was like, if I get hit by a bus and die, like my suffering ends. It wouldn't be that bad. But one realization that I had that really helped was that pursuing happiness might be a wrong thing. Instead, you should pursue, or I think, satisfaction in life. The reason for that is that you can be absolutely satisfied with your life, but not be happy. You can't pursue happiness because if you're happy, then I can inject you with serotonin and make you happy right now, and then you're gonna crash. Everything that makes you physically happy, you'll stop being happy after that thing is gone. Whether it's playing games or tasty food, it's gone, and then you're back to your normal state. But it doesn't work that way with satisfaction. If you do something that makes you satisfied and fulfilled in life, the best thing about it is it's independent from happiness. And you can look back at history and look at people who actually made a huge impact. And almost none of them, like look at their pictures, let me just show you. Look at them. They look like happy and goofy, like, I don't know, like, they look pretty intense to me. But I guarantee, I wasn't best buddies with MLK or Gandhi, but I guarantee that if I went to them and I said, are you satisfied? I guarantee they would have said yes. I guarantee they would have said there is nothing else I would rather do. I would rather die than do anything else. So if you want to become a doctor that doesn't just see 1 or 2 patients, make some money, and then you're going to ask yourself, what next? Be a doctor that trains other doctors. Be a doctor that starts a nonprofit that saves millions of people. Whatever you do, please just do me one favor. You have one life, you're in a great university, you guys are intellectuals, do something extraordinary. That's all I ask. So now why I'm here. A quick disclaimer that I passed through. I grew up eating meat, eggs, dairy. I had no business. The word vegan is not even a thing in my native language. We don't actually have a replacement for it. My only exposure to vegetarianism was by mom. It was like a weird thing that she did, and she ate really weird foods, and that's all I remember. The idea of respecting animals in a way that we won't eat them is not even a thing that I ever questioned. The reason I'm so passionate about bringing this to universities is because it took me 15 years of doing biomedical research, looking at environment and food system, and investigating animal farms, including dairy farms, to learn how bad of a problem we have. And I really wish when I was sitting in my college classroom, someone grabbed me and said, wake up. So think about this conversation more as an opportunity to do something amazing with your lives, just like these people. And another thing I want you to notice is that these guys, at their time, what they said was against the societal norms and what the society thought at the time, right? So 200 years ago, if you said something as obvious as slavery is bad, people would have laughed at you, they would have mocked you and all that. The reason that today we actually respect these people is because they were one of the few who didn't go with the flow. So when they saw that the status quo was wrong and unjust, they actually did something about it. And think about it, it's so easy today to say I'm against racism and sexism and homophobia and this and that. These words are really easy to say today, but would you have had the guts to say racism is wrong in an environment where your parents, your doctors, your lawyers, your friends, family, everyone had slaves, everyone was racist? You're born in that environment. The idea of some people are worth less than others, you've been conditioned to believe that. That's your starting point. It's easy that your starting point is today in 2026. It's easy to go back 200 years ago and say that's wrong. But would you have had the wisdom to do the right thing if you were born in that culture? So I want to tell you about probably the biggest, not probably, in my opinion, the biggest atrocity of our time. Could it be that, for instance, animal slavery, slaving members of other species today, is in our blind spot the same way that human slavery was in our blind spot 200 years ago? Could it be? Do you think that slavery and oppression and injustice are unique to humans, or do you think it is possible to rape, kill, murder, oppress enslave members of other species. Because if you go to an animal farm, those animals are not free, so, and they're not objects, right? So what are they? If they're not slaves, what are they? I want you to think about, to question this idea that we say on campus, just today I saw these two cops with their dogs. Everyone was just like petting these dogs, and I'm sure you've seen them around. At the same time, they walk into restaurants and eat animals. So which is it? Do we love animals or do we not? And if I ask everyone on this campus, unless you're an actual psycho, I think 99% of us would say we love animals. But the question is, what do we mean when we say we love animals? Do we love cutes and fuzzy ones and cats and dogs, or do we love, like, do we respect these animals? Because if you really be honest, like, what is it about dogs that we love so much? It's the fact that they are individuals. The fact that, I don't know if you've seen these videos when someone says, you know, are you ready for going for a walk? And the dog is all over the place. You come home, they get excited. Do we really think that animals of other species are not capable of doing this? So they're sentient, right? They're capable of having subjective experience of life. So when we say we love animals, can you truly love and respect animals when you eat them or pay for their exploitation? Did you choose which animals to love and which ones to eat, or is it just a coincidence? Because if you were born somewhere else in the world, you'd be loving animals you're eating today, you'd be eating animals you're loving today. That's a fact, right?
There is just saw like a dog meat farm.
Dog meat?
Next to the clock tower.
Yeah, that was my nonprofit. So we pretend we sell dog meat, and people lose their shit.
Oh.
Yeah, so people
That's
lose
fake?
their shit. They say, no.
I thought it was real.
Yeah. No, they're not. It's a
I was
satire.
excited.
The whole idea is that people lose their shit. They're like, you can't do this. And they're like, no, these dogs are, actually, these are not pets. These are raised for food. They're livestock. We're like, what, are you insane? We're like, no, don't worry. These are humanely killed. We love these dogs so much, they just have one bad day. They're a great source of protein. They taste amazing, full of B12, B17, B53, I don't know, just name planes at that point. And people are like,
I thought it was real.
you know, we say that it's okay, it's in my culture, but then you see that people say, no, none of that is a good reason. But what we say is that if you think, and we do that because dogs are #1 pet in the US, they say if you actually think eating dogs is wrong, and being human, you can't kill a dog humanely just because they taste good. If that idea seems wrong, why is it then justified for pigs, cows, chickens? But aside from that, have you ever wondered that perhaps the food that you think you love so much, you actually didn't choose that? It's a habit. You grew up eating these foods. If you were born somewhere else, if you were born in a country where drinking soy milk was the norm, what should I do to please convince you to come drink breast milk of like cows? It would be insane if you heard it for the first time. The only reason that you don't feel grossed out is just because it's so normalized. You didn't choose to like cheese or bacon or meat. And by the way, I'm from Iran. In Iran, bacon is illegal. My mom knew a Christian, so she used to smuggle bacon home. So not only I liked the taste, but also it was so festive and rare to get, right? No person becomes vegan because they stop liking the taste. You have to start asking these questions. And fine, let's say we actually like the taste of bacon. Do we really think that a moment of pleasure in our life justifies exploiting and killing these animals? And if the answer is yes, then how low are we? How selfish are we as a society? You probably can think of like what you had for dinner 2 days ago. And if that had animal product, just know that somebody had to be killed, had to be born in captivity as a slave, literally treated like object and commodity, and was killed. I'm not judging you, I'm just saying like, probably you didn't think about it. And I don't blame you, because if you don't think about it, you can't do better. Do we think taste, pleasure, culture, tradition, convenience, any of these are good reasons to continue the biggest atrocity of your time? Do you think just because something is legal and normal justifies doing it? Can you think of other things that used to be legal and normal and today we look back with horror? Many of them. And lastly, do you think there is a humane way to kill these animals? Is there a nice, ethical way? The whole argument here is that as long as it's not a necessity to kill and exploit animals, any way that you kill somebody, you take a life that you didn't have to, it's ethical. So I'm not talking about 2,000 years ago, I'm not talking about an F-15 fighter pilot who had to eject in the middle of like ocean and had to catch a fish to survive. I'm not talking about hypotheticals and made up cases. I'm talking about reality. For none of us, it's a necessity to eat animal products anymore. So that's the whole idea. So this is my hometown. This is Tehran, and this picture is from a couple of months ago. And my mom is still there for reasons you'll learn about me. I can't go back to Iran. And I don't know if you heard in the news, they also cut out internet and telephone just recently. I couldn't even talk to my mom. She could literally hear like rockets landing around her house. So I have other shit to deal with in my life. Like I do think about these other issues all the time. But the reason that I can't shut up about animal rights is because when I tell you that this is the biggest atrocity of our time, it's because of this. What I don't like about this kill calculator is that you forget that every single digit, every single number is an individual. If you're not angry about this, think about it this way. Imagine if I was beating a dog in front of you, abusing a dog in front of you. You'd be pretty upset. And now multiply that by 3 or 4 trillion per year. That's how upset I am. And we don't think about it. When I say this is not only at its scale, it's the largest source of preventable suffering in the world, it's also the most neglected, because yet you have this population of amazing, intelligent people who love animals otherwise, but they're a part of this atrocity, right? And it's not our fault, as I will tell you. It's really easy to ignore it. I sometimes ask myself, what is wrong with me? It's like almost like ignorance is a bliss, you know? I took this picture when I was flying from Austin, where I live, to Chicago. And I'm a pilot, so when I love flying. It's like probably the only hobby I have. But now even that is miserable, because I look down, and every time I look down, I see these structures. Do you guys know what they are?
Greenhouses? Factory farms?
I wish greenhouses. They are animal farms, right? So for in each one of these buildings, in that picture alone, there are millions of individuals being literally like exploited to death. And I ask myself, this is a country that values like freedom and bodily autonomy, and it's one of the best civilizations in the world. How can we let this happen? How can I be one of the only person in this flying tube from those 200, 300 other people who looks down and for 1 second thinks about every individual being like enslaved to death in this like animal farms? How? And if you replace that in the US with dogs, there would be riots everywhere. Do you think Americans would have allowed that to happen? Of course not. So what's up with this double standard? And then you ask yourself, why do we do it? Do we really need it? 2 weeks ago, 800 million chickens, just like that, had to be killed for about 1.5 billion chicken wings that Americans ate. Americans alone ate, not because anyone needs chicken wings to survive, but because it was Super Bowl. So if you're interested in philosophy, I often use terms like slavery or Holocaust or other things to describe what happens to animals. And if you have an issue with that, I want to invite you to think about it this way. I talk to people, the most common thing is you can compare humans with other animals. And I never say that we are identical. Animal rights is not like I'm not asking for cows to vote. That's not what it is about. What it's about is basic right to not be exploited and live a free life. I don't think that humans are better or worse than other animals. We are different. But if you think that humans are superior in any way, I want you to ask her, think about this hypothetical. You guys, if you are interested in philosophy, you're all about hypotheticals. If an alien came and wanted to eat you, how do you convince an alien not to eat you? You may say that I'm smart. That's why you can't eat me. And the alien could say, well, I'm smarter than you. You lost. Maybe you say, well, we have Beethoven and Mozart, and we develop that complex language and whatever. And he says, well, we have better than that. And also, you are not Mozart. So you lost. And worst of all, the alien could say, you taste good. Sorry, man. I know that you feel pain and suffering, but the moment of my pleasure, screw you. Of course, that's not a good justification. So I want you to ask yourself, what is the quality that animals of other species lack, that if a person lacked, you would treat that person the way you would treat animals of other species? I repeat that. What is the characteristic that these other animals lack, they don't have, that if a person didn't have that characteristic, you would treat that person like we treat other animals? So for instance, if you say it's because we are smart, then I would say, what if a person is not smart? Does that mean that we should exploit them? Really important, I'm not here to reduce pain, but exploitation. Why? Because let's say there's a person who doesn't feel pain. Let's say they're disabled or whatever. They don't feel pain, but they are conscious, they're sentient. Would it be okay for me to exploit them? That sounds crazy. Of course not. So it's not about causing pain. It's more than that. It's that person still has bodily autonomy, and I shouldn't take that. So what is it that these animals don't have that justifies doing horrible things to them and looking at them as lower things that don't matter? And understand that in history, every time we oppress another group, it's because we looked at our differences and I said, you look different, you have a different race, you have a different whatever, religion, therefore I'm gonna do horrible things. You're worth less than me just because you look different. We've done that. If I told this sounds stupid, you say, of course that's crazy today. But then we actually use the same exact justifications to oppress, like, for instance, black people 200 years ago. So your suffering doesn't matter. So my question is, could it be that we are using the same justifications to oppress animals of other species? Who here knows Richard Dawkins? Good? Okay.
There's quite a lot in Science in the Soul about the ethics of the way we treat non-human animals. I say non-human because, of course, we are animals. We're not plants. We're not fungi. We're not bacteria. We are animals. There is a double standard in our ethics at present, which builds a wall around our own species, Homo sapiens, which is rather unevolutionary. If you think about the fact that we are close cousins of chimpanzees, think about the fact that we are descended from a common ancestor that lived only about 6 or 7 million years ago. If you want to erect a moral wall around our species and say, for example, that a human embryo, even a very beginning human embryo, long before it develops a nervous system, is somehow worthy of more moral consideration than an adult chimpanzee, then that is a rather unevolutionary viewpoint. If you look back in our ancestry, at what point would you draw the line? Would you give, if there were Australopithecus, our ancestor, almost certainly our ancestor Australopithecus, 3 million years ago, if you were to meet one, if one had survived in the African jungle, would you give it the same moral consideration as the rest of us, or would you say, no, it has the same moral consideration as a chimpanzee? If we look back in history, a couple of centuries ago, most people accepted slavery. And nowadays, of course, that's a horrifying thought. No civilized person today accepts slavery. If you look back further still, we had the appalling things that the Romans were doing in the Colosseum with spectator sport, watching people killing other people, or lions killing people, regarding it as fun, entertainment to take the children out to. We're certainly getting better, as Steven Pinker has said in his book, The Better Angels of Our Nature. and Michael Shermer has in his book on the moral arc. So we're changing a lot, and it's therefore sort of fairly obvious thing to do to look into the future and say, what will our future descendants think when they look back at us, the way we look back at our slave-owning ancestors with horror? What will our descendants look back on in our time? And I think the obvious candidate would be the way we treat non-human animals. My view would be that we want to avoid suffering. Therefore, the criterion would be, can this creature suffer? This is the criterion that Jeremy Bentham, the great moral philosopher, laid out. Can they suffer? There's every reason to think that mammals, at least, and probably many more, can suffer perhaps as much as we can pain. Think about what pain is for, biologically speaking. Pain is a warning to the animal, don't do that again. If the animal does something which results in pain, that is a kind of ritual death. It's telling the animal, if you do that again, you might die and you might fail to reproduce. That's why natural selection has built pain into our nervous system. It's built the capacity to feel pain into our nervous system. So don't mess around with hornets because it's painful. Don't do that again. Don't pick up burning coals from the fire. Don't do that again. There's absolutely no reason, as far as I can see, why a non-human animal, a dog or a chimpanzee or a cow, should be any less capable of feeling pain than we can. When you think of what pain is actually doing, pain feels like something primitive, feels like something like seeing color or smelling a rose or something like that. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing for which you need intellect. And actually, you can go even further than that. You might say, since pain is there to warn the animal not to do that again, an animal which is a slow learner, an animal which is not particularly intelligent, might actually need more intense pain in order to deter it from doing that again than a human who is intelligent enough to learn quickly not to do that again. So it's even possible that non-human animals are capable of feeling more intense pain than we are. I'm not sure how far I want to push that argument, but I think at least I can say there's absolutely no reason to suppose that they feel less pain than we do, and we should give them the benefit of the doubt.
So two important things that you talked about. One, you said like the question is not whether they can speak or how intelligent they are, but the basic question is, can they suffer? As soon as you establish that animals are other, I don't think anyone in this room is going to argue that. So once we establish that they are capable of feeling pain and suffering, then we should do our best to not cause extra pain and suffering. And the second is, oftentimes you say they are not as intelligent as us, which could be true, but like you said, you could actually say that because of that, they could even feel more intense pain than us. Can you imagine how wrong we would be as a species? Think about it for a second. How strong is the sense of like smell or vision in some other animals like dogs or hearing? Can you imagine if their pain receptors were that much more sensitive than us? Can you imagine the amount of like excruciating pain that we are putting them through?
Yeah.
So tell me a little about my background, because I think college is where you basically decide what your hopes and dreams are going to be. When I was in college, there was a big oil spill, and so I decided to do chemical engineering focused on biofuel production because I was interested in environment. At the same time, I'm an introvert and shy, and every time I do public presentations, a part of me dies. I'm trying not to have like eye contact with you as much as I can. I think that a lot of times we can do things when we push ourselves out of our comfort zone. So thankfully, I always had good friends who pushed me. And in this case, they said, "This is me," and they said, "For us, let's go to hospitals, play music for children." And this was a cancer institute for children. And so I can't tell you the negative energy in these rooms when like you had 6 or 7 like beds with mothers and their dying children. Most of them were terminally ill. And you know, we told ourselves, just like doctors, that we shouldn't like emotionally connect with these people, because then next time you go and they're not there and you don't want to ask what happened. But it's really hard. You're human. It's hard to play with them, make them happy and all that, and then next week you go and they're not there. And because of that, this was something that was like, what is the better thing that I can do to help them? And that's how I'd like you to think. What is a better thing that you can do that maximizes your impact in this life with your career? Is it just being one doctor that treats one patient, or is it a doctor that treats the world? And because of that, I made it my mission to come to Texas and study in one of the cancer institutes that I really wanted to get into. So I did my master's there on cancer research and my PhD in biomedical sciences. And then I came to Austin to work in biopharma, so that's me. And when I was in biopharma, if you knew where I'm coming from, just making it, I'm not only the first generation like immigrants, but also college students. So just getting a PhD and getting a decent job, having a house and a car, at some point, you know, making something around like $400,000 per year. That was great. Like there is no one in my extended family who made it so far. And then I had to really, but I still wasn't satisfied. I woke up every single day. I was miserable, despite the fact that I was doing everything that I wanted to do. But it felt like it just didn't make me satisfied. It wasn't money, it wasn't the research itself. And that was a time that because you know, since I became vegan, this has been my passion. I quit that job. I've never been happier. And I don't have a family member here, so if I fuck up my life, there is no like plan B. There is no. I nuked the bridges behind my back. And one of the things I nuked is my political activities in Iran. So this is my college, University of Tehran. It's like the best university in my home country. And you see happy students here because it's a stock image. In reality, it sometimes look like this. Again, in Iran, like protests and revolutions always started from this particular university, actually. So this was us doing like protests. I'm going to tell you about this. The door was locked. The gate was sort of like locked. The blood that you saw, there was this guy, random guy, who just showed us a peace sign, and the next thing I know, paramilitary forces attacked him and started beating him in the head with batons. And that was the first time someone was beating in the head with batons. And it's not a fist fight that somebody just like gets a nosebleed. It's like this guy is gonna die. And the fact that you can't do anything about it, that was the worst part. And as I thought things can't get any worse, they actually broke inside the university and started like attacking the students. And at this point I was tear gassed, I could barely see, and I had one of these guys with a machete who ran after me, tried to kill me. It's not a baton, it's not like you don't get bruises with a machete. And that's the fastest I've ever run in my life. And to just make everything worse, I'm also gay, which I suppose you knew because it was on the all over the place, apparently. It was a description of the talk that I saw. It was great. But that's just another reason, because of my LGBT activities. That's just another big no in Iran. They kill gays, if you didn't know. So there's that. So when I say, and I'm also atheist, so just get piled up. Like each one of them is a reason to get executed. So I really just checked all the boxes. About 15 years ago, everything changed. I think that college is the first time that you start noticing that, at least for me, it was like, all right, so there's environmental issues that I really care about. Oh, wait a second, there are human rights issues that I care about. Something that was not even on my radar was animals. And that happened 15 years ago when I was rescuing some animals. My best friend at the time said, Faraz, you're a hypocrite because you're trying to rescue animals, but you literally eat them. I was butthurt. It was a hard conversation, as I'm sure this is. I'm gonna make it even more inconvenient, but hey, that's what changed me, right? So I didn't like what my friend had to say, but today I think that was the best friend. If she just wanted to be fake and make me feel good about my actions, I would not be here today. I would be probably living a miserable life still. And that was the moment that it opened my eyes. What is interesting here, the idea of speciesism, that's an idea of like eating dog. Why is it so wrong to eat dogs but pigs? If we actually served hot dogs, the name is literally there, hot dogs? Okay, actual dogs, absolutely not. So speciesism is something, it's analogous to sexism and racism. It's discrimination against members of other species without any good reason. And it's a learned behavior. Children are not speciesist, the same way that children are not racist. No 5-year-old kid cares about the race of the person beside them. This is something we pick up in school and by society and by parents. So when my friend said that, I was like, holy shit, I hated my friend for 3 months for the record. And I was like, she has a point. You know, I hated this, but I was okay with pigs being beaten up in the head. For bratwurst, I was living in Germany, I had just discovered bratwurst and was like, sorry pigs, it's just like 1 second of you dying. I was against hanging gay people for who they are, but I was okay with hanging chickens upside down and cutting their throat because they liked chicken. And as someone who, you know, I was doing my best. I was trying to, and I'm sure that you are too. I know that college students care about so many forms of injustice and so many different causes. Could it be that dairy industry and what we do to animals is in our blind spot? Because from everything I've seen and escaped from in my life, nothing has come close to dairy industry. If you just looked into, I still talk to people and I say, what's wrong with eggs and dairy? In dairy industry, this is not a, you know, isolated incidents. This is artificial insemination. Every cow that, you know, in dairy industry, the whole idea is that cows have to be pregnant in order to make milk. We don't think about it. And I don't blame anyone. That's why I'm passionate about this. Like, I thought cows are just milking machines. Of course, if someone like walked me through it, I would have like, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But like, you always think of cows as these magical machines that always produce milk and nothing bad happens to these cows. No, only females can produce milk. They only produce milk after they're pregnant. Anyone knows how long cows remain pregnant, by any chance? Take a guess. 9 months, just like humans. After pregnancy, their babies are taken away so that we can steal their milk and put it in our food. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but this is why I'm here. Because I know that you are good people, but the society is so, if you are wondering, I think that was the only food that has dairy in it. So someone has to go through that so that we can put their milk in our foods, but we don't have to. And in what world is this justice? And if you're wondering how many times they do that, 6 or 7 times. And then what happens when she's no longer profitable? What happens when her milk production goes down enough that she's not worthy of keeping as a commodity anymore? Then they kill her. If you ask me, that's a lot worse than meat. So that's me as a kid. I had a chicken named Happy. Mr. Happy was my best friend. I'm also the only child. Happy grew up, became this big rooster. We had to give him to my grandma. And you know, I loved opening the door, going to her house, and you know how grandmas are, just to kiss you all over, you're like, get the fuck away from me. And it's like, she always thought I'm there to see her, but in reality I just want to see Happy. I loved opening the door, and you know, he would jump at me and cuddle with me, and he was my best friend. Until one day I go home, open the door, no sign of Happy, and I ask my grandma, where is Happy? And she says, Faraz, I'm so sorry. The door was left open. He ran away. I was crying. I was trying to find Happy. And it was like 10 years or so later when my mom accidentally said the chicken soup we had that night. And you know, to date I have a hard time like forgiving her. I feel like she betrayed my childhood innocence and like killed my best friend. But the irony of that is that day I knew I had chicken soup. I remember the bones in the soup, but I didn't care because I was like, this is not Happy. That's what I thought. But again, what I want you to question yourself, I know you'd be the same. If your pet had to be killed so that their milk had to be in this food, you would not find this food appetizing. And you know that's true. I want to show you a few kids. I made a claim that kids are not speciesists. This is something that we learned. I want to show you a few kids that for the first time learn the food they're eating comes from animals. This is not meant to make you emotional, because there are a bunch of kids that are crying. I actually hate kids. That's another story. But it's really interesting to see their innocence and how they're being conditioned. What I want you to think, to see here, is the conditioning by parents.
I don't want to eat them ever again.
Oh, what do you think? So what will you eat instead?
I will eat whatever there's on the table, but not chicken or meat.
What do you think why do you think you don't want to do that?
Because they're animals and I like animals.
So what will we do if we miss eating chicken and meat?
I don't miss eating chicken and meat.
How about fish?
Fish?
Yeah.
Fish? Is it an animal?
Yeah.
I won't eat that either.
Oh my God, so
I won't eat animals.
Okay. Why do you feel sorry for animals?
Because they're nice and I know that we cook them sometimes, which is not very nice, and I know we like to eat animals that we cook, but that's not nice for them.
Yeah. Do you think they suffer?
I think that they don't really like being cooked in the oven. I don't like when people eat apples. I just don't want them to chop up.
You don't want them to be chopped up? But they taste very good.
They taste very
Why
good.
do I kill horses?
You don't eat horses. You only eat turkeys
Why?
and chicken and pigs and cows.
We don't eat horses, we eat these other animals. So that's speciesism in action.
So we should eat them, shouldn't we?
No, why don't feed them all up?
Farmers.
Why?
It's their job. It's how they make a living.
Farmers need to make money.
Because they taste good.
They taste good.
Protein, they're good for you.
They have protein, they're good for you.
Oh, sorry.
And I won't make you eat the food because I don't want to argue with you.
Would you like if someone ate you?
No, I wouldn't.
Well then why should I eat this poor harmless animal?
Okay, but do you understand what I'm saying? We didn't kill this animal. It's good for your body. Jesus created animals for us to eat. Baby, do you understand? I just want you to be healthy. It's food, baby. I'm not hurting you. It's food.
Well, you're hurting the animals.
I did not hurt the animals. Good girl. Alana, eat it, chew it, and drink your water. Quick, quick.
As an ex-meat lover, I think you can probably sympathize with this. As a kid, I actually didn't like meat, but people told me it was good for me. I ate so much of it that by the time I was your age, I said I would never go vegan or vegetarian because that's how much I loved it. Now, I talk to people, they have all these excuses about why they eat animals. And my question is, did we come up with it, or are these things that we just heard from parents? When I say it's not our fault, the reason is twofold. The cruelty is not shown to you. So you go to a store, you buy these amazing looking foods without having to face the cruelty, right? You just go, my friend, can you give me 5 minutes before you do? I know we are, thank you. On the other side, we are constantly exposed to lies. Every time you go to grocery stores, you see happy animals on the package. 95% of students I talk to don't understand that all male chickens have to be killed. Even if it's pasture-raised, grass-fed, organic, doesn't matter. Male chickens don't lay eggs, they're always killed. Female chickens who lay eggs are eventually killed anyways. We talked about that. Now, how many of you know what ag-gag laws are? Do you know, have you heard of ag-gag laws? Ag for agriculture, gag for gagging. So in the US, animal industry is trying to push so that if I went inside the farm and showed you what happens behind the scene, so that you can make a conscious choice whether this is truly aligned with your values or not. You can't. You will go to jail if you show people the truth behind it. So I want to show you 3 minutes of the standard practices because it's absolutely important for us to watch as an evidence, because if you don't see it, I can't really explain how bad it is until you just see it. So for 3 minutes, please stay with me. And you can look away, but I encourage you not to.
Your kids will love McDonald's.
One thing that unites us as humans is food. And one thing that's common amongst almost all our cultures is the use of animals in food. Supermarket packaging and marketing campaigns may lead us to believe these animals live happy lives. But is this actually the case? In the pig industry, piglets who are born too small or weak are considered to have no economic value. Many are just left to die. Others are killed by being smashed against the floor. Those who survive have their tails docked, teeth clipped, and testicles ripped out with no pain relief. During and after they give birth, mother pigs are often confined in crates so small they can't even turn around. Since only female chickens lay eggs, male chicks in the egg industry are considered useless and are killed on their first day of life. Most often, they are macerated alive. Chickens in the meat industry are selectively bred to grow extremely big, extremely fast. As a result, they often experience problems walking, standing, and even breathing. Cows in the dairy industry are relentlessly milked, which can cause them to collapse from exhaustion. Out of all the animals we use for food, fish are the animals we kill in the largest numbers. Yet, they're the ones we protect the least from cruelty and suffering. Investigations have often found fish still conscious long after being put on ice. Whether they're raised for meat, dairy, or eggs, all animals are eventually sent to a slaughterhouse. Many are killed by being hung upside down and having their throats slit. For pigs, a common slaughter method is the carbon dioxide gas chamber, which burns their eyes, nostrils, sinuses, throats, and lungs while suffocating them.
you're welcome. I usually say I'm sorry that I have to show it to you because my intention is not to make anyone upset. But I say you're welcome because this is something that you would never see. Maybe this is the first time and last time that you're gonna see it. When you leave today, if you have a double cheeseburger, it's not gonna hurt me, it's not gonna impact me in any form and fashion. But I want you, for the first time in your life, next time when you make this simple choice, ask yourself what is behind it, and is it in alignment with values that I hold? I don't give you my values, but I want you to ask yourself, I think everyone understands that this is wrong. And you have to understand that this came from a place like that. I know food is tasty and sometimes making these decisions is hard, but the way that you make it easy is by thinking about the victims. It's really easy to be the oppressor and say, oh, I'm just selfish. People tell me, I'm gonna go vegan maybe after college. I'm like, imagine if I said that for any other form of injustice. So think about this as a form of injustice, not diet. I'm not asking you eat this, don't eat that. Think about it as a form of injustice. If I was beating a dog and you were trying to stop me and I said, you have a good point, but I'm gonna reduce my dog beating. You're like, are you insane? If I made a racist joke and you wanted to stop me and I said, hey man, I'm doing my best. I used to be so much worse. You're like, that's not acceptable, right? The way, I loved cheese. I was such a huge cheese lover, but the way that I don't miss it is simply, when I see cheese, I just think about the cow. So, and if you do too, if you think about how many times someone had to be raped, how many times she had to have her baby separated, it stops being food. The same way that if you have steak and someone said that's dog meat, you're gonna be like, that's not food. Since a lot of you are into, I'm gonna change gears, but since a lot of you are gonna go to medical school, hopefully, number one cause of death is heart disease. And then you have diabetes and cancers. Many of these top causes of death are correlated with animal consumption, saturated fat, and carcinogens. Meat is promoted to people as a good source of protein. This is not a vegan organization. This is World Health Organization and American Institute for Cancer Research that say literally processed meat is group 1A and red meat group 2A carcinogen. Find me a cancer institute in the world that says eat more meat. You can't find them. And all I have to really show you to make my argument, if I thought that being vegan or being on a plant-based diet will hurt your health, I had no argument to make today because I don't want you to be hurt. This is a position of Academy of Nutritionists and Dietitians, which is the largest academy of nutritionists in the world, and it's not a vegan organization, if you're wondering. It says that all plant-based diets, including vegan and vegetarian, are appropriate for all stages of life. It says they're healthful and nutritionally adequate, good for all stages of life, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adults, and athletes. On top of that, they're environmentally more sustainable, and they can reduce the risk of certain conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, certain types of cancer, and obesity. This is something that you're not gonna learn in medical school, and this is a dilemma I had with my PhD. I was so prepared to defend my PhD, there was one question I could not answer. Why are you working on this? I would have literally broke down and said, I don't know. I should be working on other things, but I was so committed to my PhD. Animal agriculture is the biggest contributor to antibiotic resistance, which is one of the top threats to human life. If you care about people in this world, we should end animal agriculture. Environmental disasters linked to animal agriculture, the list is long. People tell me, what about feeding the world? My friends, eating animal products, meat, eggs, dairy, today actually is a leading cause of global malnutrition. People tell me, what are you going to do with children who are hungry? I'm like, my friend, we are the reason that there is not enough food in the world. Why? That's the entire agricultural land available to us. 80% of that goes to meat and dairy production. So we take 80% of the land we have to produce 20% of global calories and 37% of global proteins. Meaning that literally, we are wasting land and we don't have enough food at the moment in the world because there is global malnutrition. Can you imagine if we took that land and actually dedicated to growing plants to feed people. And by the way, people talk about small farms and grass-fed and organic. They actually have worse environmental impact, which I don't get into until you have a question. You recognize this? So I was there today. Then I went to check out some coffee, and that's what I saw. What I'm asking you to do, the difference between like doing the right thing and wrong thing here, and like, is within the length of your arm, literally. Fairlife sounds amazing, fair and life, but you have to ask yourself, what happens to male calves? What happens to those cows when they don't produce milk? And let me just show you something very quick before you guys leave. I know it's probably until 6, but we started a little late, so give me a few more minutes and I finish. This is Fairlife. Fairlife is the largest, one of the largest dairy producers in the US.
The Animal Recovery Mission undercover in Arizona, and not just one dairy farm, but 2, both supplying Coca-Cola's Fairlife milk and core power. This is ARM's 3rd investigation covering 8 Fairlife facilities since 2019.
I'm Tim Dolman with Fairlife. Animal care is foundational to Fairlife.
Newborn calves are chained and violently dragged away from their mothers at birth, simply for Fairlife and Coca-Cola to profit from the mother's milk.
This whole company, from the very beginning, has been built on great animal welfare, sustainable practices.
I'm sure you agree that what we saw is not acceptable, and that's why I don't judge people who grab that Fairlife. I just think they don't know what they're supporting. And that's why I said you're welcome, because now, from now on, you can actually make decisions that are in alignment with your actions. Please don't fall for these marketings. Grass-fed organic. Now you can ask yourself, if it's milk, if you're drinking the milk, basic math, someone else is not. If you're eating eggs, a male chicken had to be killed for that. This is cage-free, by the way. It doesn't mean cruelty-free. These are all meant for us to feel better about eating animal products. So fundamentally, just before I finish, I want you to consider animals as victims and as individuals. And question not like, what is a better way to exploit animals, but more fundamental than that. Why have we been so conditioned to look at animals as commodities and slaves and objects? Why is that? And did we come up with it, or is it the society? What I want to end with is this. I'm a very pessimistic person, and like I said, I'm sensitive. Sometimes it's hard. Like everywhere I look, there is something wrong, drastically wrong with this world. And I go take a shower, or go for a walk, and I can't stop thinking about it. Like, what is up with this society? How can we not see that? How can we not take action? I don't understand. But the reason that I have hope is because I know that this is not the first time that the society is drastically wrong, and every other time that we made progress, it wasn't because everyone did the right thing. Because people ask me, like, are you going to talk to everyone and make them vegan? That's not the plan. It has never been the plan. No social justice reform happened because everyone did the right thing. It only happened because a small group of individual and thoughtful people like you, intellectuals, people who are in universities, they did the right thing because we set the culture here. Don't go with the flow. It is easier. It would be easier to go to live here, eat dairy, eat something with dairy, eat meat. You will fit in this stupid society, ignorant society, just fine. No one will question that. You'll be fine. But then somewhere inside you, please ask yourself, if this was another victim, if you went 200 years ago, when slavery was legal and normal, what would you have done? Would you just have gone with the flow? Would you just say, I'm not gonna have slaves, but you do you? Or would you have the guts of these people who lived many years ago, but they did the right thing? And I think today we like them because of that. And the last one I say, please find that courage inside you. And if not you, who? And if not now, when? Thank you. I'll be here. I know that I exceeded my time, so ask me questions. And I know this was intense, and I really appreciate you having me. This was probably the toughest talk this club has had. I'm sorry about this, but it gave me a good prompt, actually. But that's why I really, I meant no disrespect. I felt bad if you guys grabbed this and then I told you the truth. If after this you decide to eat this, that's your choice. But I would have felt bad if you did that not knowing that what you're doing.
Every semester, we missed it this last semester, every semester we open our year with a debate about veganism. And then at the end we have people vote, oh, is it better morally to be vegan, non-vegan? And then if people say, and people have rarely, but people have, like majority agree, oh yeah, it's probably morally better to be veganism. The rest of the food that we get for the club that semester is completely vegan. And then people get mad.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure for one semester, you just changed it even though you didn't have a majority.
There was a majority.
Really?
But yes,
okay.
Yes there was.
Well, I didn't vote for the vegan food, so.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that we need a debate about this, and also the victims are not there. It's not a fair game, right? It's not a court where you have the victim with their lawyer to defend them, right? It's like those people who are voting, I wish they could actually vote when they're watching what I just showed you. I would like to see how that voting goes when they're actually looking at what happens to animals. 200 years ago, if you wanted to vote in the South, like should we keep slaves or should we let them go? I don't know. That shouldn't be. Clearly, majority of people are ignorant about what happens. And even from the minority that understands what happens, they say, I know what happens, but I'm not gonna give up my cheese. People I have the most respect are a couple of like Jains. They believe in ahimsa, non-violence, and sometimes they consume dairy, but some of them don't. And one of them that I love the most, he was in this committee, and he basically said, you know, you're not gonna have dairy. And now the entire temple was completely like vegan. But I really like that because I think it's like, what would Jesus do? What would MLK do? What would Gandhi do? He would just do the right thing. And I don't define what the right thing for you is, but if you have the power in your life at any given point, of course, if you leave it up to people, the majority of people are not on animal side. That's not a fair game. Do what's right, even if it's uncomfortable. Even if that puts you in minority. These people were in minority. Yes?
I want to ask, you might have gotten this before, but what about like animal kibble? Like I know a lot of people, if they feed like their dog or something like completely vegan that has like terrible effects on the dog's health, what would you say to that?
I've actually published peer-reviewed papers on this. It doesn't. So dogs are actually omnivores. They're not obligate carnivores because they've lived with us so much. They've evolved to have like amylose and a bunch of other things, amylase. But the thing is, no one really needs meat. You need certain nutrients and like macros, basically. As long as you provide the animal with that stuff, they'll be healthy. Cats are actually obligate carnivores. So in nature, yes, in nature they have to have meat. But the fun fact is that there is absolutely vegan dog foods, for sure. But for cats can't make an amino acid called taurine. And taurine has to be synthetically added to non-vegan cat food anyways, otherwise you just won't have enough. So the whole thing is synthetic anyways. And so if it has to be synthetic, I think the goal shouldn't be, like the goal should be like reducing the suffering. I don't want the cat to suffer, I don't want the dog to suffer, but also like pet food is one of the major sources of using like factory farm animals. In no way, in no math or logic it makes sense to kill hundreds of other animals to just feed a dog, who, by the way, we probably didn't need to have, we probably didn't get from a shelter, we probably got a hated breeder, which is a whole other story. But the idea is that no, they absolutely can be on a plant-based diet. There are so many people who have the plant-based. It's synthetic, vet approved. But that's secondary, right? Like, those are other animals. Like, I think the main issue is like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna like change it? Cultivated meat would be a good solution, right? So have you heard of it? Lab-grown meat, cultivated meat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's like when you take stem cells from animals, you grow meat in incubators. So there are actually pet foods that are based on cultivated meat. Fantastic. It's real meat. I don't even have to argue with vegans about it. But that's a good solution. That's a great example of how we can use our intellect to reduce suffering instead of trying to find ways to keep the status quo. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So generally when cows have calves, they need to be milked, and generally sheep also need to be shorn. You talk about animals having the right to live a free life, but also we have bred animals to such a state that they are dependent on us. So, which has, you know, the more compelling argument that somehow we keep these animals alive and take care of them without eating them or having anything like that by milking them or whatnot, or that we just don't bring them into the world in the first place. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess not to upset you, but I don't know if this is considered like taking care of animals.
Yeah, yeah.
So first thing I would say is, no, we're not taking care of these animals. These animals are enslaved and tortured from the day they're born until they're killed.
Yeah.
First of all, you are right that we've bred them and genetically manipulated so much that we have to actually milk them because they produce excess milk. Otherwise, that would be a stupid evolutionary mistake to have like mammals that produce too much milk.
But in factory farming, like so many more animals are alive now than it would be if they were just like either on farms or just not there in the first place.
Yeah, sure.
So is it like it's better that less animals are alive, but that they're less to suffer in the first place? Like their lives living in such a painful state are not worth it? Or,
I don't think so. I wouldn't
like all of those animals in the current condition should be taken care of in some way.
Yeah, I understood the question. I'd rather be dead than live my life in Guantanamo.
I see.
I don't know about you. Imagine if everything.
So.
Guantanamo is probably actually better than factory farms. In Guantanamo, you probably don't get mutilated. You probably don't have your testicles ripped out. Guantanamo is heaven compared to factory farms. I'd rather be dead than live my entire life and have everyone and everything I care about separated from me, and then say, hooray, but at least I'm alive, at least I exist.
Understood.
But also, these are not our two options. Our options are not like, let's have these animals.
Yeah.
Like, there is a third option. We stop breeding them.
Yeah.
These animals who normally would not exist anyways.
How do you respond to people who say that, oh, religiously, you know, God put animals on earth so humans can have dominion over earth, over other animals? I mean, there isn't a moral argument to argue against that, but on the other hand, like, how do you...
Are you religious or just asking?
No, this is a...
Yeah. It is generally harder for me to have conversations when everything I say, someone's just gonna say, the book said so. But for Christians, at least I would say that I invite them to understand the fundamental teachings of their religion instead of cherry-picking things. Because I tell them that we also cherry-pick Bible to justify slavery. And of course, that doesn't mean that Bible suffer. Like Jesus, if he came here, I don't think that he would have supported slavery. But of course, we manipulate, we cherry pick. And so could it be that dominion means actually stewardship? Dominion doesn't mean a father has dominion over his son. God has dominion over us. It doesn't mean that God exploits us. God actually protects us. So how come we conveniently, when it comes to members of other species, we define dominion as someone who just exploits other animals? Because if you use your power, with power comes responsibility. If you use your power to hurt others, we claim that we are more intelligent, sure. But if you use our power and intelligence to hurt others, that makes us bully, not dominant. Sometimes I get it. Like I invite them that like, it's almost like, what would Jesus do? How would Jesus kill? If Jesus came and went to a dairy farm, like what we are doing, playing gods, genetically manipulating these animals, blah, blah, everything. There is no way. Jesus was like, yep, that's exactly what I meant by being kind and compassionate, and I don't think so. And if you want to argue with that, I don't know. Sometimes there's something that helps is like, well, if God told you to kill babies, would you just walk around and kill babies? And sometimes people say yes if God said so. And then the best thing I've seen is when people say like, come on, there's no way that you actually believe that, and then they laugh. Because deep inside they know that's wrong. Yeah.
So apes usually used to eat plants all day, right?
Correct.
And so did we pretty much, but we started cooking our food, particularly meat, and started like, certain groups of us started raising sheep to eat grass so that we would have a sort of symbiotic relationship, apparently symbiotic, and because they could eat grass and we couldn't, and there was a conversion of calories and stuff we could eat. What about, so, of course, the factory farming is awful, but what would you say to those people who would say, we still kind of need animals to, eat grass and convert them into calories, and that, sure, the factory farming's bad, but what about the, just farms that didn't subject them to pain their whole lives, but that, homey view of what a farm looks like, even if it's not what usual farms look like. How, should we have those types of farms around for those type of lifestyle, for that type of nutrients? Like, our intestines, sorry, I'm all over the place. Our intestines shrank over the course of when we cooked animals. As we started cooking the fire, we didn't need the intestines anymore. So over the last tens of thousands of years, when we used cooked food and fire, we didn't need that intestine anymore. Do we need that? Sorry. So that's the one question. That particular intestine thing. Our intestines shrank. Do we really need to be eating food all day long? Does cooking vegetables break them down the same way cooking meat does, especially if we cooked meat all the time?
Yes, so we are...
Are we actually meeting our nutritional needs?
Yeah, of course. So what does meat have that you can't get from other sources? If any doctor ever tells you you need meat, you have to ask them, what am I actually low on? Maybe you're low on iron, and the reason they say eat meat because meat has a lot of iron.
Yeah.
And they probably haven't read the data that actually when you cook meat, a lot of heme iron precipitates and it doesn't get absorbed. And much of iron that you get from meat is the same one that you actually get from plants, which is non-heme iron. And they don't know that, but that's beside the point. When they say eat meat, then you have to ask, so yeah, what am I doing? Then you say iron. Or great, so I'm gonna go eat more plant-based foods that have iron. You don't have to have meat. The only thing that you get from meat is B12, but that vegans need to supplement. But B12 is already supplemented to those animals. So you basically, by being vegan, you cut out the middle cow in this case.
What did we do before the supplements? Did we just go around and had all the symptoms that allowed the B12
is made by gut microbiome with bacteria. So before, historically, we ate fruits and vegetables unwashed. So we got a lot of these kind of bacteria in our gut, and they made B12 for us.
Okay.
But that also meant that we died from lots of other diseases. So
Yeah.
now that we wash our fruits and vegetables.
Nice. Wow.
I'd just like to know how would you define an animal versus a non-animal, such as a plant or a fungus or a bacteria, or more specifically, how do you define which species do we put this kind of moral do not exploit, do not eat treatment on versus what species we don't put those on? Is it just their capacity to suffer? And if it is just their capacity to suffer, how do we know whether they're suffering? Especially I'm thinking about instances such as insects, which can be a potential alternative for a lot of protein consumptions, which I'm just thinking, how do we know,
Sure.
are they suffering or not?
I think, good question. So I think what should be that measure be to meet sentience? Consciousness. Sentience means someone who has a subjective experience of life.
And also this sentience thing, I personally believe it probably works on a scale in which we can say an ant is sentient.
That's okay.
But
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
And to your question, sorry, you cut me off, I forgot.
Sorry.
What was the first thing you said?
How do we differentiate
Oh,
the
you mentioned
animals
the insects, right?
Yeah.
I think it's actually ongoing research about like insects, like consciousness. But we are on the side that they're most likely conscious, and they still have a brain, they still have a central nervous system. You look at their brain, they have so many similarities. We still look at like fruit fly to do a lot of biomedical research, right? Sometimes even like worms, but that's another story. So with fish, for instance, we victimize fish to a point that when I tell people don't eat meat, they're like, what about fish? A 6-year-old kid said like fish are animals. Like Richard Dawkins would have told you, like fish are still animals. They still have central nervous system. So yeah, I agree with you. If I have to choose between a dog and I don't know, fly, I would probably choose the dog. But you're not in that situation. We don't need to cultivate insects to eat in this day and age, right? But I think
I've eaten insects before.
I have to, but I'm just saying like
Yeah.
I don't think we should,
Okay.
you know, or necessarily.
I want to preface, I'm like on your newsletter, like, and I read that every week, and it's really good. And also like ASAP just does phenomenal work.
Thank you.
But I guess like how do we get around like animal models and like the role they play in research, and just like I guess how necessary they are in that like preliminary step whenever you're, and like I guess there's like stem cells that like you can like grow, but that's only for a specific sector, like human research. So I guess like how do you get around that, or like can you?
Yeah, I'll be happy to send you some resources. But the short answer is doing animal testing sometimes benefits us, but a lot of times also holds us back because it can mislead scientific research. There is a drug, for instance, that they tested, TGN1412. They tested this in monkeys at 500 times extra, like higher dosage than they would test in humans. Completely safe, right? They took it to humans. People had like major organ failure, like cytokine storm, to a point that they had to like amputate their fingers. In 500 times extra dosage, it was fine in monkeys that are like a lot closer to us than, like, we are not giant mice. In cardiovascular disease, we made huge mistakes because we fed like mice like fatty food. It just turned out they have enzymes to digest like saturated fat so differently than us. We literally decided that saturated fat and fast food is not bad for us because in mice it didn't cause like heart disease. That turned out, well, they express different proteins that we don't. So it can actually hurt us in so many ways. 95% of model drugs that show efficacy in mice, when they go to phase 1 clinical trial, they actually fail. So, but what are the alternatives? So there are in vitro, so you can, like when I did cancer research, I had a choice not to do animal testing. What I did, we actually took like actual cancer cells from patients. We grew them in a Petri dish. We took care of them. At some point, I was responsible for like 80 cell lines at the same time. And then you give them different chemo and you see which one works, which one doesn't. At the end of the day, when you take that to mice, you're gonna treat cancer in mice, not in humans. Then there are cadavers. Then there is phase 0 of clinical trial, which is microdosing patients. And remember, just because you test on animals, it doesn't make it safe in humans. First, that's the whole reason behind phase 1 clinical trial. That's why you pay people, because they're taking a risk. So even if you show that it's safe in animals, you still have to take a risk. But beyond all of that, there will be cases where we don't have the good model. I admit to that. But the question ahead of us is, do we want to keep using a broken system that hurts animals? Because if you've done animal testing, it is animal torture. For the animal, it's pure torture, right? Do we want to keep using this, or do we want to say, you know what, actually for my particular research, there is no good animal model, I'm going to make one. I was just talking to my friend, whom by the way, we came across each other in Texas. He became vegan. Now his job is working with FDA to reduce animal testing. And he was just telling me how new computational biology models can actually substitute toxicity. So you don't have to test on animals. So the computer models with AI, they can literally just take your molecule, the structure of the molecule. It's called docking, if you've heard of it. So it docks the molecule against every binding site of every protein that humans have to see if it binds or if it interacts with liver. Will it cause liver toxicity? Fantastic. None of that existed 200 years ago, right? So that, I think that's a way to move forward. Like, all right, how can we fix this? If 200 years ago, when we had to go around with horses, we said we should not invest on cars and ships and trains. Horses it is. Horses are the best transportation tool. Today we wouldn't have so many other amazing transportation tools, right? So I guess like, yeah, maybe we don't have the right model, but does it really justify like hurting an animal? Because if you do that, then I'm like, if it's for the benefit of the world, you get really close to like, maybe we should also test on prisoners and other people, because if that's going to be actually better. That's going to be human relevant. If I tested on one human, but we know that there's something wrong with it, right? But aside from all of that, most of animal testing is for exploration, not for like. After I've worked in biopharm, I've seen it. I have so many stories about like things that didn't have to be the case. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I give like long lectures about this, so I'll be happy to send you some resources. Sorry, I don't know how to summarize it in 2 minutes.
You mentioned worms. So root vegetables, you know, you gotta kill all the stuff in the ground that clings to the vegetable. Do you recommend, like, what about those that are killed indirectly?
Killed indirectly. So I think that if you understand veganism, that's sort of like explaining. Veganism is not really just a diet, like I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
This rejection of exploitation of animals. So if you grab a potato from the ground, you did not like exploit a worm. Accidental things happen. The same way that when you run tractors on agricultural lands, sometimes accidents happen. Actually, farmers like lose arms and legs all the time in those kind of accidents. That doesn't make agriculture bad by nature, by default. It just means that we need to have better agricultural practices. But it's not exploitation of farmers. It's just an accident that you didn't mean it. But that's a very different thing than.
So like by walking outside, you're probably gonna crush an ant
Sure,
or something,
but yeah.
But you didn't mean to.
Exactly, you didn't mean to. Your other option is not walking. But then, like, if there's a colony of ants here and there is no, I don't know. I don't think ants are like humans or dogs, but I still try not to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm talking about is like
So
literally.
not supporting exploitation.
I don't want to take too much of your time, so don't feel obligated to stay here. Any other questions?
Thank you for the talk. I found it really compelling. I was also going to ask about animal models.
Yeah.
And I think it's true that we often use animal models, especially in pharma, when we don't need to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of good work can be done in vitro, but I think a lot just can't, and we're not there yet. The same thing with the computational models and like particularly for me, I study behavior, so I think, unfortunately, I think animal models are necessary. I'm not really convinced that there's anything else we could use to study the same things. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I admit that there will be cases where we don't have the right models, but I would always say, like, okay, if we don't, then maybe you should, like, your thinking should always in life be, okay, there is no way, I'm gonna make one, right? No one knows your research better than you. Maybe you could be someone who for the first time comes up with a model that gets validated by FDA and can be used by everyone else in the world, the same way that organs on chips have made progress in vitro tests. You know, I know that it can be hard at times. There might be very cases where it's like really hard. But in what world also it justifies? Like, think about it. If that was your dog, if I was like taking your dog and was like, I'm gonna burn their eyes and inject them with infectious diseases and screw things in their brain, you will feel, actually, you know, the craziest thing, the pharmaceutical I was working at, Exploitation, the person who led animal testing, she had a dog. Her dog had cancer and died at old age, so it wasn't like a sudden death. She didn't come to work for 3 days. Her background was like the dog. After weeks, still when she talked about the dog, she cried. Yet her job was just like killing mice, basically. And when COVID hit, and they had so many mice that they didn't know what to do with because experiments had to stop. They were not tested out. They were healthy mice. I was able to rescue two of them, Albert and Nikola, named after Edison and Tesla. I never decided which one is which. They look the same. But she actually fought against the idea of like me rescuing these mice. You know, for her it was just mice. But me, I actually like having a bad experience with these mice, and like until the day they died, they were still a little scared from me. Like that's how miserable their life must have been, right? But it just shows you the cognitive dissonance. Like in no way it would have been justified if I took your dog and I said, hey, but it's gonna benefit the world. You will feel uneasy. So at some point it's like, does it justify it? A lot of mice research in my alma mater was like alcohol research. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this like species? We have to extract ethanol, then get drunk, then like overdo it so much until like our liver falls apart, and then we have to force feed these poor mice like extra alcohol to study liver disease. It's like stupid, right? Yeah.
Sorry, can I just do one more question? Because you were talking about stuff that was justifiable and permissible, and I just wanted to know that, you know, there's a standard of refusing to eat any meat, and then there are other vegan stuff like not buying any leather or wool or any clothing like that, and that could fall under the same label. There could also be stuff like not supporting a restaurant chain that has any meat in their menu. Like you're giving money to them. Like they have plant stuff on their menu, but if you give money to them, they're still overall a fast food chain that serves meat. So you might not want to do that. So like, what ranks in terms of this is not morally justifiable, and
again, if you,
what's exemplary, or what would somebody strive to do?
I think if you like always remember what veganism means, people say going vegan is hard. They say, I would never go vegan. All you have to do, replace vegan but not exploiting animals, and like repeat back that sentence to yourself. I would never go vegan. I would never stop exploiting animals. That's really what it means. It's so hard to be vegan. It's so hard not to exploit animals. No, the second you actually think about the victim we're talking about here, it just becomes so easy. So vegans, with that's what, I don't think people who are wearing leather and fur are vegan. Like if you are vegan, you would reject the same way that you would not wear like a human skin or like a dog skin, right? But I would say, going to a restaurant that's vegan or not, I mean, that's debatable. You know, we can promote, we can put pressure for them to have better vegan options. Right. It can go either way, but I don't think that you're necessarily, could be gray zone, but clearly like this is not, you know. I don't want to keep you guys here too much if you need to go. Thanks for giving me extra time and being very open-minded about this. I know I pushed you hard, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, there's some extra, there's actually a lot of extra rights if anyone wants to make any right. There's also like a little bit of the chickpea left, and if you can stomach it, there's of course the beer sitting there, but that's up to you.
How are you gonna event tomorrow?
Yes.
So, if you guys want a few more questions for us, we will always talk about this.
Will it be a similar? Honestly, I thought it would be.
I would like to add images in your presentation.
Oh, that one?
Yeah, well, how did we do this? This was awesome.
Just because of the.
Yes. How many people do you think will show up? Is that like an interclub?
Have you seen the
Sort of remind me of which room did we get for the
Yes, I know, it's all bad. Like, it all sucks.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
no.
just like on principle.
You let me know
For the rest of us,
if you guys want to do
thank
anything
you
else.
for
Thank you.
That's all wise.
Yeah, so, you said you're doing vegetarian.
Many times.
No, yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic.
You go on a journey together, I mean.
Yeah, oh my god.
But it's, like, I can't,
Where do these
every time I try to do
quotes
it,
come from?
I keep, I'm severely, so it doesn't
Where do these quotes come
work
from?
that well, and I tried taking iron
Full
supplements and like all
emails.
these types
Oh.
of supplements.
Yeah, it's really good talk.
That was not good.
Was it this time?
Different.
Different
but similar.
Yes,
No.
anything, please,
I
I want to go vegetarian so
Well,
bad.
Say vegan, because the meat
Or
is
vegan
very,
as well.
literally the same thing.
So,
What I would say,
happy to
for some people being vegan is going to be harder than others. Like I've seen people who have not and soy allergy. Like even when we go to a vegan restaurant, there are still, yeah, but it's still like good. And because of that, actually, like I use them as an example. So in life, sometimes you have like this amazing, like I use my background with being gay or whatever, just almost getting killed, to my advantage to just make a point. So you in life, just hypothetically, in the future, you could say, you have no idea how hard it was for me to go vegan, with all these like health issues that I had. But I had to figure it out, and I did, and this is how I did it, and if I could go vegan, then we
About
can
2 years at this point?
I want to
I know you
to
do.
know
Sorry.
strategies,
Yes.
if you know, like, ways that I can
Sorry,
get
sorry.
around.
Yeah.
How long have you
So
been
there are two things there, it's like your iron level, and then there's the holding the stomach. I assume that has something to
What's
do
your-
with
actually, yeah,
like
what's your major?
taking
What do
the
you do?
medication or supplements like an empty stomach.
You're
I
gonna do
don't
well.
know. What I would say, there are like plant-based sorry, not nutritionists, dietitians, registered dietitians. Anyone can call themselves nutritionists if I like. Registered dietitians. But it has to be something on the plant-based diet rather than so one thing to try is like talking to a plant-based doctor or a dietitian and say, these are my limitations, these are things I can or cannot eat.
Astrophysics or
Like physics and philosophy.
Physics and philosophy, there are a handful, yeah. There,
It's an interesting intersection.
I think it's pretty cool. There aren't a lot of like physics majors in town.
Other thing you should also consider is that
There also aren't that many like pure philosophy majors, so it's not like that big, but you know, I think there's a lot of them, of course. And mostly the people who do everything or being interested.
Women in general need more iron, and you're not the only one. Like there are tons of other people who like to like sort of manage it. I know women who became vegan and their anemia actually slightly better. And if you have like severe anemia, usually you have to take your supplements.
Math is like
for some
logic,
people,
right? Like you start with certain set of like axioms, like things you can
I
prove,
take
and then you logic out the rest of everything about the subject. Physics is like science is like inherent.
It's like a multi-different kind of.
In the sense that you're not,
And I
like
take
you're
it
not
one
starting with a
place,
set of like
you know,
logical premises, you're just testing shit against the world. And it's
super cheap, but
and so like
it's manageable.
philosophically, the way you go about the two subjects is pretty different. They're related,
But then
because
you
like
get to
advances you
not
make
do
in
something
math
that you already
are
know
advances
you
that you
don't
make
want
in
to do.
physics.
And
And
you become a
generally,
living
like,
example
math is
for
kind of
others.
ahead in physics in that way, and that like new shit is always being invented in math.
people literally using it just as if saying any justification continue
So
to
like
be
it's
there.
like
Right?
discovered in that.
You manage to kind of give despite the difficulty that you have.
So like most
It's such a strong example that if I can do it, what is your excuse?
two sides,
Think about it that use anything that you have in your power to help the journalists, because
like observations or experiments or the designs, you like figure out stuff about the world. It's like, you ever take like intro physics or like physics lab and stuff? It's like, yeah, you just like pull on a spring and you plot how many points and you're like, oh shit, it's a line, right? You can do stuff, but you do it with
Not
like
even
galaxies,
seen,
and
I've like
all your other, or like particles.
seen all these videos.
And that's like just seeing the patterns that are out there.
People
And
that
then
run
the theory
farms
is
are
like,
so
okay,
digital.
is there some like greater underlying truth thing that
And
can
But
also,
yeah, thank you for
have,
the
like
yeah,
just
have
happens to
vegan
be the
friends,
language
it's
that
really hard to
describes
isolate
the truth
everyone around you.
because it like ascribes to a
Visiting
certain
in
set of
products,
rules.
right? So, but like having
But
some
like,
vegan friends who actually
yeah.
understand it. Grace.
Yeah, it's a little, it is a little weird though,
Actually,
because
in this
like,
one
I
happens
don't know,
to
when
be
you think
that
about
most
the
of the
truth
officers
about
are
math,
like,
it's like, you
girls.
can say that
So I'm sure they would
numbers
understand your problems,
exist
like they
in a
can
sense,
make
you
it
can be like,
resonance
there's,
with that.
there's such a thing as
And
like one or like
my email is
34
just
tax
for us.
piece of paper.
Yeah, you got it.
Whatever. You can't say there's a negative one left anything, but it's
If
not
it's
super
an
to say
email,
that
take a
negative
picture of
numbers
your
are useless.
son.
Obviously, they're like hugely useful.
Right.
And like
That's one
fractions
email
are also
that's
hugely useful,
Instagram
even
will
though
also
there's no such
generally
thing
take
as like
very
a perfect
quickly.
half of something.
Yes.
If you have a
so-
question,
what's the
just
implication of
write to me.
Well,
Please, guys,
at
please
least for
connect
like
with
the
them.
philosophy of math, there's like
Go to
a
the
debate
meeting
about
tomorrow,
whether
there's
or not
the
it's meant to
meeting
discover.
speaking.
And the
Find
big
friends
debate
and
is like,
they'll also
okay,
help you.
what's the truth
Okay.
of
Yeah, what was
math?
your
Does it
name?
have any
I'm
truth in the real
Jonah.
world? Physics
Yeah.
by
Nice to
nature
meet you.
has
Nice
to
to
be
meet
true.
you.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for the speech.
Math doesn't necessarily have to be. There's much
Daniel?
about like this, the world is different, the rules were different.
And what do you name again?
Nicole.
Nicole.
Yeah,
yes.
base two.
Well,
Exactly.
base-
Yeah, I really like the, I think I'll try.
How's the MCS major?
I loved it. It was like
Weird,
kind of just like complete like.
Just a study that easy to forget about.
I feel like I take it because it's all classes. Wigs classes, philosophy classes, film classes, education, like just studies for a lot of like issues. So that's what I chose.
I'm Jonah. And I think he's on campus.
Good job.
Sometimes it's gonna be harder. I
Oh my
never
God.
ever in the.
Oh my God,
Oh my
yes.
God, I
My friend and I, like my
Bring it back.
friends
Sometimes it's
and
gonna be
I
harder,
we
but
talk about it all the time.
I wish I corrected
All the
myself
time.
because someone said that ignorance is
We
bliss.
really like the
Like,
cover like.
it's easy to be ignorant and just live
That
your
one.
life.
I'm the cute one.
It was twins.
But then that day you
Like,
go
how
to
did you come
a
up with that?
restaurant.
Oh my God, you have to.
So
okay,
just
I
so you
should
know,
be
There's
doing
no, that's
like
like a
when they were
good vegan option. And then,
got
oh, you
there,
go to a
blow
birthday
up
party,
one
there's a
day.
cake.
That's
and
what I
there's
keep
like
saying.
ice
They're like,
cream.
no, no. I'm like,
No.
you guys are gonna be famous.
You're so
I
tempted.
saw that.
And the harm is done, whether you eat this or
I
not.
know what just happened in this room.
doesn't
That was
change it.
magical, and I had to go back.
Change anything, except the culture, except that
Hey,
you
well,
can, when you reject it, when you're in a group,
we
you
get
say,
started
you know, thank you.
so you come to
I really
see,
appreciate your offer,
in
it's
April
just,
this
it makes me
Oh yeah,
uneasy.
very
biggest fan.
That's
God,
a
if that video, I was begging, I would get to Beck every single day.
I don't
like,
think a
months. I was
snowball
like,
of change,
put it on YouTube.
right? But every time that
we
you
were
give
all
in,
waiting
and you
for
eat that,
because
then
we had like a huge
that opportunity is lost, and you could educate someone else. On top of that, if you know that this is a wrong thing to do, but you do it anyways, you will feel bad. When you follow down that, like, I don't know if you ever tried to be on a diet,
Yeah.
and then
We
like,
unfortunately
you start cooking, you ate it, and at first it looks it's cookies,
Okay, that's not
but then you eat it and you feel bad. You feel like you let yourself down. So ignorance is a bliss, but when you open
Take it
your
on.
eyes,
Well, I
align your actions with your values, the best thing ever.
I have two
Because you don't
pages
let
in there,
yourself
but
down,
like,
you don't let
they're a
animals
musical
down.
version. But I am planning on working with Eli and
Yeah.
my unstoppable
I was wondering what you
force
think
and
about
immovable
animal-raised
objects.
antibodies,
Your
like
program.
medication.
Oh, they would eat that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sorry, what was it?
Antibodies.
I'm
Antibodies.
a possible positive person.
Um,
That's crazy.
I mean, both for animal research and for.
All the rice.
Well, it's like all rice.
I have
seeds
seeds
or
of
whatever.
rice. I have.
Yeah.
I have dogs.
Yeah, sorry, antibodies is
Yeah,
actually what
I mean, like, you can
I
almost
would make
use
some
rice.
stuff with that, bro.
It's just like a lot of rice. It's like
I
so.
think we overdid it. Do you want these?
Yeah, I feel uneasy about it, you know?
I mean, I'll take
Um,
it if you're not.
A lot of
if you don't wanna
antibodies
hear
that are
it.
used for humans at least are like usually use X cells or CHO cells.
Well, I'm gonna take all the rice anyway, so I'm gonna be carrying shit. So if you just want
And
one less.
X cells are even better than the human cell lines, so they're more compatible.
On the
I
Canadian.
think about it more like insulin. Insulin used to be purified from pancreas
Yeah.
pigs. So they had piles of pancreas. And it
Oh,
produces a
yeah.
little insulin, and then people had allergic reactions.
Could you, perchance,
But today,
go
how do you think we make
wet
insulin?
some of these?
We take the DNA that produces
Okay.
insulin. we
The,
put it in
I don't know where
sometimes
the-
we
It's
use
upstairs.
egg-
Nearest bathroom is
we make
Upstairs?
And
then-
Oh!
insulin.
It's also
It's human
downstairs.
insulin. It's meant
Either
for
way,
us.
you're gonna have to go up and down a flight of stairs.
Yeah, there is always a solution. Maybe we haven't had it yet, but it doesn't mean like insulin. Like if you like 50 years ago, and I said one day we're gonna have human insulin produced. It would have blown people's mind. I was like, what? That's sci-fi, right? But someone had to come up with it. Fun fact: there is dairy that is animal free. So you've heard of recombinant protein production, right? Recombinant protein. Biomedical. Or in food, it's called precision fermentation. So it's different than fermenting like beer. It's when you take, so whey protein is a protein, right? So it's made from a DNA. You take that DNA, you put it in yeast or E. coli or something. You literally make whey protein identical to the cow's whey protein, but it doesn't involve like killing the animal. Fantastic, right? So you can still have whey protein for those gene boys who say they want them. And I love that. This is like an amazing showcase of like technology, how we can use technology to spare the life of animals. Yeah, but you guys are smart, so let's just use it for animals. Like if you see a problem, fix it. A lot of times the people go and see like, oh, it's expensive to be vegan, or my dining hall doesn't have it. Well, complain, change things. If you don't do it, then who would? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for coming and. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, thank you. Is your family okay?
Yeah.
That person, yeah. Yeah. I was able to talk to my mom, but it's just very depressing, so.
Do you have good vegan alternatives for frozen food?
Actually, let me just show you real quick. Because I was at another talk that I gave.
Nice.
Yeah, don't prisons just automatically assign you meats?
And then there were a bunch of Iranian people who came and they were like, what do you eat? Korma sabzi, if you don't know what korma sabzi is, like the #1 favorite Iranian dish. And I buy it from like Amazon. It's already vegetarian, but by vegetarian they mean like vegan. So when you look at a lot of even Persian food, peyna, orman, I don't know the Pasanjan, I don't know how many of those make sense. They're actually 100% vegan, then
they
people
streaming
put
this?
Yeah, but
device
don't
meat in it.
substitute the.
So we can substitute it with vegan meat or mushroom or soy or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Or not. This I eat this thing. I'm so lazy. I don't even put anything in.
So the roll.
It's just it's like korma sabzi. It's just like you just don't get the meat. You can put.
Yeah.
And if you're ever wondering, like just Google like
Yeah,
I don't know.
Did anyone spill food on the desks? I don't think so. No, right?
I think they're fine.
But seriously, I'm showing you because I'm not gonna answer all of your questions. You're gonna say, "Oh, this is my favorite food."
No.
All you have
Okay,
to do,
okay, sure.
Google like vegan recipe and you'll
Yeah.
find something that's vegan. Even yogurt or even favorite like, Indian foods and
Okay.
anything good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet
Yeah. Reach out anytime.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Thanks again for coming. This was
My
a
pleasure.
fantastic talk.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
No,
Yeah, I
of course,
appreciate it.
of course. I apologize for the disorganized, we started late
You're fine, you're fine.
and food and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But no, I really appreciate you coming and talking.
Thank you.
And it was a very last minute thing for us, so it was a lot of running around, unfortunately.
I love the collaboration. It just made me very happy and
No,
yeah.
I agree. Are there any resources you would recommend? Because I think having this kind of awareness conversation is important. to keep impressing upon people. And college is, definitely a very impressionable place to
For sure.
to open people's eyes. So, I mean, do you have any resources that I could use in the future?
Sure,
Or
I
maybe-
can send you an email.
That would be great.
Or,
Yeah.
Set a reminder to myself. But yeah, thanks for providing this opportunity. Like I know that some people they just told me that they changed, and it's just because you organized this.
Yeah. Well, it was easy for me. I didn't do the hard work. Right?
But you made it happen, so thank you for that.
Of course. And yes, and also finally, I'm sorry for plastering your sexuality on our on our material.
I thought it was funny. No.
Yeah, no, it
It's
was.
not like I'm. The message is out, so it's not like.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
At least 50% of the people here are gay.
Yeah.
That's true.
We both count as half.
Yeah. No,
I don't know,
Did you
but
send out a survey? I didn't know there was a survey.
A survey?
No,
No, I just know.
WashU is a very queer place.
Oh, just here, not in
In
the
this
club.
room.
I'm like,
I don't know
how
how
did
you
they clock
decided
out
this.
everybody? Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Again, thanks so much.
Can you
Yeah.
just put your email here so I can send you the.
Yes.
So you're with ASAP, the Allied Scholars for Animal Protection. You're the CEO, you're the founder, and you have the dog meat place around here. You're around St. Louis, huh? Is that like your main
No, I live
location?
in Austin, but when the
Austin,
semester
Texas.
starts, I just start hitting all the universities.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How often do you travel?
Oh, whoa, sorry. I think I put in my incorrect email.
As soon as the semester starts, I'm traveling until the last day.
Well, I suppose email will reach you then, so.
Email?
I would
Yeah,
love to
email
join
or-
I'll email you to join your newsletter.
Oh, sure,
maybe,
yeah.
Maybe other questions about it.
Actually, just put your email there, I'll send it to you.
I should have guessed from the. Wait,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Okay,
put my.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna type in my personal email. if
sure.
that's okay.
Whatever works.
Dude, I really need to go and sit down. That's not stable. I should not have sat down on that.
No, but that going out in front of people and then telling them about veganism, it can be